Welcome, golf fans, pursuer of knowledge and the almighty dollar. Welcome. This is your golf guru bringing you the U.S. Open 2020 recap, and then I'm going to give you the first look at the Corrales Puntacana Championship. Let's jump into this. So real quick, I just wanted to go over, who I picked, where they kind of struggled, where they did well. I think it's just good information for all of us. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But hey, it's a learning for all of us. And actually, some of the things I pointed out came to fruition, and some didn't. And funny enough, before we jump into too much of it, the U.S. Open almost came down to the Rocket Mortgage Part 2, right? You had Wolf leading, few strokes going in the Sunday. I kind of was thinking he might choke some. So on Showdown, I stuck away from him, and I did go with DeChambeau at that time. And it came to fruition. Also, all the information that we were getting from the media and sources and players did not come to fruition, as in, there was guys hitting out of the rough 180, 200 plus, on the greens. Of course, Thursday, Saturday, the course played a little simpler. Also, the USGA cut the rough on Tuesday down to 4 inches due to worry that they would not be able to get in each round, which I think they had a few guys that had to go off in the morning on Friday to finish up round 1. So, a few things kind of came out. What we learned was, you didn't have to hit the fairways to be effective here. What you had to do very well was putt and around the greens is ultimately what I saw from everything that came out. So let's just quickly move through. I just want to, kind of go over where these guys, where we ended up. And so real quick, these were the 3 chalkiest guys when I started to build this, which was like a day before the tournament on Wednesday. You had Rahm over 23%. I was on agreement. I thought Rahm, this was his tournament to lose. But, ultimately, he struggled, and he struggled actually on one of the easiest days, which was Thursday. But he lost around the green and putting. That was kind of the sentiment I saw for all these guys that, ended up not placing well. They lost around the greens and with the putter. Schauffele, I actually thought he was going to come, had the best chance to pull it out on Sunday, but, kind of fell apart as Wolf did. And again, his off the tee was a little, not the best, but he lost again, almost 5 strokes around the green and putting. Or actually he was positive. Everything else he was, I apologize. He was positive around the green and putting, but he was struggling off the tee. And even on approach, he started to have that fade right again on him. But, ended up with a 5th place, almost 70 points. And as I kind of stated, I wasn't saying, hey, don't play these guys. I was just saying, don't put them all 3 together, which you could, might have made your bottom 3 a little rough, but, you could technically get all these 3 guys in. And then Terrell Hatton, one of the bigger disappointments, ended up with a T110, missed the cut, got you a whole big 11 points. And he lost on approach and around the greens, so crazy around approach, which is typically a strong suit for him. Where my pivots were was, hey, we were looking at Fleetwood, hoping that he would find some past form, does well at the big tournaments, but he ended up just missing the cut, again, losing on approach and putting. Casey was a nice pivot, ended up at T17, but honestly, after round 1 with the 6 over, which was the day everybody was shooting low, he just couldn't recover. Now, again, he made the cut, got 53 points, but if he could have just shot even that day, I think he would have been up in the top 5. And then Wolf, in the beginning wasn't on my super radar, even though he was playing really well and, had the distance, had the accuracy, but I just wasn't real sure about the putter and even around the green. But he ended up having, a crazy day putting on Saturday, and just got a lot of lucky bounces on Saturday. So if you looked at, he had a great Thursday. Friday was not so good. Saturday was awesome. Sunday, we all know, was quite a mess. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I was kind of pulling for him, but it just wasn't meant to be. But hey, a runner-up in his second major, and I think he had a 5th place at the PGA. So good things to come for Wolfie. Matsuyama never, I don't think he was a super shocker. He was a model darling. I think he was number 1 in a lot of my models. Just a very accurate tee-ball hitter, very accurate approach. But what I was worried about came to fruition was, he lost almost 5 strokes putting against the field, which ultimately just took him down. But a T7 at 55 points. And then Rose, I was hoping he'd find some past form, past U.S. Open winner. But, he just lost on approach and nothing really excellent stood out and missed the cut. So 17 points, he got you on that one with a T88. Fitzpatrick was kind of a shocker. He was, 18% owned. So I think a lot of people were on him. But, he just missed a cut. But, funny enough, out of all the key categories of shot gain, the one that you wouldn't think he'd lose on was putting. And that's why a lot of people were taking him. And actually, he lost almost 3 strokes there. Chez was one that, I just thought, and especially, again, with knowing at the time that you were assuming you cannot get in the rough to, make pars or birdies. I think everybody was on, a lot of people were on Chez, and he kind of choked it out, got you 12 points, and he actually lost, funny enough, off the tee and approach, and he lost on putting. And putter was a worry from the word go, but just didn't think he would lose so many strokes. And that's not so much on how many fairways he missed. I think that's just due to the length that some of these guys were hitting it off the tee that, he just couldn't keep. And then probably one of the biggest shockers, which I didn't hear a lot of people talk about, was Morikawa not making the cut. Again, he just barely missed the cut, but with everything from his, past performance at the PGA, and then even looking at, there was one area, I think it was a Memorial, I think he missed a cut. That made me a bit nervous. I didn't have a lot of Morikawa. I think I had a couple teams with him on it. But, I'm sure a lot of people had him heavy roster, 50% owned at this time. But, he really didn't do anything great, and he lost, again, 2 strokes around the green. And, again, that was just the resounding kind of smacking in the face was the guys that could get up and down, like Patrick Reed did for, 3 days. Well, actually, we'll say 2 days. He kind of struggled on the third day. Is the one that kind of pulled out. Then we had Brian Harmon again, kind of fitting that Chez Reavie model, and he actually did well. T38. His approach killed him, but for 6,400 to get you, 36.5 points, he was a good pickup. Jason Day, again, you got to definitely differentiate from the field. He did get you a T38, but his approach killed him. Matt Wallace, again, pretty cheap. I think he's around 7,000. I don't remember off the top of my head, but again, a real differentiator in the field. Got you a T43. 36.5 points, but again, he was negative around the greens, negative putting. Kisner, I was a little shocked on that one too. I really thought that his bulldogness and just to kind of really kind of power through and grind out rounds, this would be a good spot for him. But missed a cut T110, and he lost off the tee and again around the green, almost lost 4 strokes. And then funny enough, I did pick DeChambeau as another sleeper. And I know, at the time, everybody in hindsight will say, oh, he's not a sleeper. But he was a sleeper before this tournament started. Like, he was 4% owned. Nobody was was touting DeChambeau to be your winner because of, he was spraying it all over. Yeah, he's got distance. But again, if you're in the rough, you couldn't get out supposedly. And what I kind of said, and I took the same approach with Wolf was, hey, I think these guys are going to club down a little bit. And when they club down, they're still ahead of the tour average in driving distance. So that was my mind thought. It wasn't swing speed out of the rough would save them. It was, they can be, Margaret. So ultimately, of course, he won. I don't know exactly where his ownership ended, but that's what it was the day before. And, of course, got you 102 points. So if you had him in any of your lineups, you probably cashed at some level. I did have some of DeChambeau, but not nearly as much I wish I would have. Same with Wolf. I had, a little bit sprinkled. And ultimately, he brought home the cup. So all those people that, were just freaking out over what he did on the COVID shutdown to try to improve and, gain swing speed and all that. Hey, he's proven them wrong. This guy, I give him a lot of credit. So good for him. Then in my super sleepers, I did a show after, I threw this out like late Wednesday because I started to do even a little more deeper analysis as I was, finalizing my builds. I had to go a little bit lower, of course, if you wanted to get some of the premium guys at the time we thought. So, Louis was 7,600 and I liked Louis, of course, again, kind of fitting that Brian Harmer, Chez Reavie, very accurate, smooth swing. Also, he's, I think it's only win on tour. I have to go check this, but I know he won a major and that was the Open. It was like right when he came out as a rookie. and has never won a tournament on American soil. I know that for a fact, which is just crazy. But at the time he was 14% on. So, I say super sleeper for me, but I don't think he was heavily looked at. And typically, if the other shows, the Pat Mayos and the other guys start touting someone, then of course it's amazing to see their ownership. They could throw anybody's name out, and it's amazing to watch the ownership go up. So, there was Louis. Joel Damon, actually out of all my super sleepers, he's the only one that missed a cut, and he missed a cut by a stroke. But again, for the cost, he got you 21 points. Sebastian Munoz, oh my God. Again, made the cut, but holy cow, did he have just a disastrous weekend. I think, yesterday, he almost started costing you points. He would have been better if he actually maybe would have missed a cut. I think Thursday, Friday, he actually was higher than 23.5 points. Mac Hughes actually missed the cut, T72. I think I said all my super series. So he was the one that actually did miss the cut, which was a little shocking, but just didn't, the putter didn't do enough for him. And then lastly, I had Danny Lee, which was my super, super duper sleeper. He was at 1.2%, but again, I know Danny Lee's game, and knew that, again, going under the mind thought of we got to hit fairways, we got to hit greens, and, not so much that he's great around the green or the greatest putter, but I knew that he was very accurate. But for whatever reason, he ended up shooting +8. So he was actually doing pretty good, made the cut, and was, doing decent. And I guess he had some kind of wrist injury and withdrew after round 3 after shooting 8 over, which I hope that's what happened. I hope he didn't do the ow my back, I just want to get out of here. But yeah, that kind of hurt because I had with using Danny Lee at 6,200, he opened up a lot of possibilities. We'll just put it that way. And then my fades, which, I think the only shocking one is I faded JT and almost came back to haunt me, as in day one, he was leading the tournament. He was 5 under. But just what I looked at with just recent form of, what was going on with the driver. And again, all going back to you had to be accurate. And I knew Justin was struggling a bit off the tee. So ultimately, he ended up at T8, 66 points. But, his putter and his driver, he's still one of the best, 100 yards in or in the sand. The guy's magic. I think one of the best. But I knew that he was going to struggle off the tee if he kept playing the way he was. Ricky, no shocker there. But actually, amazing enough, I watched a bit of Ricky Fowler, and his game was pretty good. I mean, he was hitting fairways, his approaches, everything. It just was his putter, which is crazy because he was one of the best putters just, a couple of years ago, even a year ago. So that's where, if you look at his stats, I mean, he lost 7 strokes to the field putting. If he could have just been neutral, I think Ricky could have been, a T10. So anyways, and then of course, I don't think it was any great shocker, but, typically when these tournaments come around, everybody, would jump on the Woods and jump on the Mickelson with the storylines. And, I'm not even going into details. I mean, Mickelson, I think, almost shot the worst score on round 1, which is crazy. Again, best conditions. And then, Tiger's just not going to play, and his body's just not going to allow him to do what he used to do. Now, when he gets to a Pebble Beach or he gets to Augusta, those courses are short, and it takes knowledge and ability to work the ball. And that's something you can't teach. That's something is learned. And so, can he be viable at some of those courses? Yeah. But you put him in, a big boy game where, he just can't do it. He's not going to be physically able. And I feel the same way with Phil. So, and then my winner again, I was Ryan Simpson, all under the thought process of, hey, you got to be accurate. You got to be a great putter. You got to be good around. He was the guy that I thought fit the mold. And, he ended up at T8, but he never broke, par, as in he never shot under even. He was like +1, +1, +3. He just kind of kept hedging along, but still got you 53 points. If you started your build there, and somehow put Wolf and DeChambeau in, I never had that combo. I had one or the other with him. You could have had a nice little setup, but he lost a little bit on approach, which is a little crazy because that's typically where Webb, excels. All right, so denied. Now let's get into Corral's Puntacana Championship. So we'll break this down a little bit. I'm going to be doing a deeper dive and actually giving picks and stuff that later. But in short, what's interesting, I'll give you just a little background on this tournament. It was a Corn Ferry tournament, all the way up until 2018. And last year, I think the purse was 3 million. The purse is 4 million this year. They're also offering full FedEx points. So this used to be always known as the alternative event. So typically there'd be something else being played at this time. That was the A team would be playing and the B players would come play here. And I'm also kind of shocked that, the field is not stronger. I get all these guys have been running hard since the restart, but if you've never seen this course, when you get to see it on TV, it is just gorgeous. And it's in a Dominican Republic. So I can't think of a better place to go recharge your batteries. Even if you go play for a couple of days, don't make the cut, which, half these guys would make the cut. It's a pretty simple track. But yeah, anyways, I guess I'm kind of shocked that Moore is not playing here. Here's some of the guys that, that have won here in the past. You've got, Graham McDowell. If you kind of look at all these guys, what's standing out to me is pretty good putters, very accurate off the tee. And, Mackenzie Hughes known as one of the better putters. But then the year before that was Bryce Garnett. Again, almost, if you look at the two, their games are very similar. And I put Mac Hughes in here. He was a runner-up last year. I think, he's in the field. Bryce is in the field. Graham's in the field. And then even in 2016, when this was a web.com, now Corn Ferry Tour, Dominic Bozelli won here. So he's in the field. So I think that's, duly noted to keep an eye out. He must like this course. Just some notables that will be playing here. And again, the who's who is definitely not the who's who is playing here, but Will Zalatoris, who just, was top leader of the Corn Ferry, qualifier for the U.S. Open. He actually T6, T6. He was brought up on some different shows and kind of touted that he could do something here, and he did. But there was a lot of European guys that have been touted that, did absolutely nothing. Didn't even make the cut at the tournament. So I say he's one to keep a look. Henrik Stenson is probably the biggest name that's playing here. And the only reason why he's playing here is because he lives in the Bahamas, which is like 1,000 kilometers away. So I think, he's flying back and he's like, hey, I'll go, go play there, maybe win the tournament. Because again, he's probably in history, the best player in the field. Not saying he's the one that's going to win, but he's a big name. And so, why not? Again, I mentioned Graham. He ended up 134 at the U.S. Open, so miscut. You got the Bryce Garnett, Bozelli I mentioned. Mac Hughes. So that was kind of the notables that I saw. A little bit of information about the course. It is the Corrales course they will be playing at the resort. It's a par 72, 7,666 yards. It's one of the longest courses on tour, but also one of the easiest. It is Paulson Greens, which I would kind of look at. If you ever played in Hawaii or something, it's that kind of thatchy. It's almost closest to Bermuda. Typically they run, they can run fast if they, if you cut them right, but typically they run average. Scoring a par is easy to average. In the past, the greens are pretty firm here. Fairways are easy to hit. The rough's been short. The front nine is the easiest. So if you're going to do a showdown, maybe you look for the guys that are teeing up on the front nine to get that momentum go. They have a par 5 that is, a lot of guys eagle. I think it's 515 yards. That's hole number 7. And then the cut line typically is somewhere between even and 1 under. And again, we don't have a ton of information here because the only stats that we have is going to be from 2018, 2019. We don't have the Corn Ferry stuff. Kind of looked at the top 10 finishers in the past. They scored well in the par 4s. In the par 4s, where you're looking for is the proximity to the hole from 400 to 450, 450 to 500. We need accurate drivers. Not shocker, but here you do. What came up in the models and what was kind of pulled out from past history is the guys that drove it well and also scrambled well, did well. And then also the sand saves popped up. And also, 3 putt avoidance. The only real true comp course I could find is Cocoa Beach, which is where they play the Puerto Rico Open, which Big Dick Victor Hovland won last year and is on the schedule this year for the end of February. So that's kind of just a quick snapshot of the course and some of the guys that will be playing. I will be doing a deep analysis of the field. I've already kind of started to put the model together. I'm still waiting for the pricing to come out. So this is being recorded around 3 o'clock on Monday Eastern time. And once I get that, I will have another show or release tomorrow or the latest Wednesday with projections, my picks, what's the model saying, what am I seeing, any intangibles, and I'll get that released. So all the best. And, I know it's not super exciting. We have a Masters that's coming up, but hey, I think these are the opportunities and tournaments that are upcoming that, if you're doing the work, you can make some money at. And I will talk to you guys later.